So good morning and good afternoon wherever you are in the world. Today on Talent Finders podcast, I would like to welcome entrepreneur, founder of Emotional Baggage Depot, and transformational coach Eileen Smith to Talent Finders podcast. Welcome, Eileen.
Hi, Karen. Thanks for having me.
So today, Eileen, I would like to kind of elaborate to the audience and start off by asking you where your entrepreneurial journey started, and having been in business through your experience, what has been the transition into coaching and speaking?
Uh, sure, where do I begin? So my journey actually began when I was quite young. Actually, I started working really young, and by the age of 28, I decided to go off on my own and open my own business. I had a coffee shop in Bryanston for kids, well, an indoor play center, and a medical supplies company. And that's where it began. And I have to be quite honest, the more challenging part was the coffee shop, having to set up and having such a huge staff complement. You don't realize the amount of responsibility that goes into staff, having to,
Absolutely. And was
having,
this the first time you'd been in this in the food and beverage and restaurant or coffee shop business, or had you had previous
it was
experience?
my first time. But I mean, prior to that, I managed a shopping center for over 6 years, the Bluebird Shopping Center. And I had quite a good, insight on retail.
Yes,
So I felt that, I could do that. I was in a position to do that. So I felt. I really did enjoy it. I won't lie to you. I mean, having these little children around me all the time and getting to know a lot of the moms and as well as catering for parties. I love cooking. So that was the highlight of everything. But sure, the overheads were really high.
yes,
Retail is not for the weak. It's really, really hectic. Um, Trying to make sure that your rent is paid and your staff is paid. It's just whenever you're in the children industry as well, you can't. Well, I felt that I couldn't charge, ridiculous amounts for things because these are kids. We
yes.
want them to also have fun. And sadly, about a year into it, I had to walk away from the business. I just couldn't handle the overheads. And for me, I would rather my staff get paid, and I wasn't I wasn't taking in a salary.
Yes.
So, it was just, and I also started the business when I was 4 months pregnant.
Wow. Wow.
So I actually went into labor at the shop.
Gee.
Yeah,
Wow. What an experience for sure.
it was really an experience, an amazing one nonetheless. But I learned a lot of lessons from it. Planning is very important, and not
Yes.
planning for the best, but for the worst. I
Yes.
think
Always.
we
Always.
don't we don't go into it understanding that things could go wrong, and that was my biggest downfall. Was I didn't think that things would go wrong. I just had so much faith in my business, but I didn't
Yes.
reality of the economy.
For sure. Um.
Mm.
So. Um. So where did the transition into coaching and then speaking come into play? Because obviously you've got 13 years of business experience.
Mm.
You've been in, many different industries. So, what led you to the place where you wanted to transition into coaching and speaking as an
Sure.
entrepreneur as well?
So, I mean, to be quite honest, if, in hindsight, I would have never expected myself to be where I am today in terms of speaking.
Yes.
I did work on television. I think in 2008, I was a co-host on a relationship show.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it was called Relationship Reloaded. So I guess I've never been shy, and when I was 15, I was also on television. I was also co-host. So I've never really been shy. I was always that kid that liked to do public speaking, and we would go to other schools, and I talk a lot,
Yes.
but I would never think that I would become a speaker. Um, so yeah, well, my journey to becoming a life coach and a speaker really goes down to me going through what I've been through, you know. So in 2016, I lost my firstborn to a sudden brain aneurysm, and this happened at the peak of my divorce.
Wow.
And I think that the life coaching part was more a means for me to mend a part of myself, you know, and understand life. I thought that, okay, fine, I need to understand life. And also, a lot of people would come to me for advice because they thought I was strong, which I really wasn't. It was just how I allowed the world to see me, you know.
Yes, of course.
So let me just try this course. And, you know, through the life coaching course, I started the emotional baggage depot because I also realized that life coaching, fine, it's one thing to be a life coach, but I rather say that I'm a change coach because I can never teach someone how to live.
For
You
sure.
know,
No one can.
life is a unique experience.
Yeah.
And I rather focus on the mind shift and the change rather than saying that I help people, you know, with their lives per se.
Yes.
Only you can change your life.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I started the Emotional Baggage Depot, which is a platform that helps women. You know, I give them tools on how to unpack emotional baggage because I realize that a lot of women carry around a lot of baggage. Let's not say women, men and women,
Yes.
but my focus was women at that point
Yes.
because I feel that women are more open to discussing their emotions than men.
Oh, for
And
sure. Without a doubt.
from there as well, that's when I realized that I really, really enjoy speaking. So I've done a few talks, and that's my why, my ultimate why. I cannot describe the feeling I get after I've spoken because I've also learned that from speaking, I get to heal. You know,
Yes.
the more I talk about my journey and share and allow people to change their minds through what I've been through,
Yeah.
it's a very, very rewarding feeling. So that's how I got to speaking. It's not as easy as a speaker, though. I won't lie to you. So I consult. I'm more of a consultant for work. And then when I do speak, it's like, that's a bonus, you know, it's a real bonus. But it's not easy to hear, you know, the talking in this, the speaking industry. It's more about who you know. And I'm not that much of a, you know, a socialite or an influencer. So it's, yeah, I've noticed that they focus more on the people that are influencers, you know, to be at talks, you know, irrespective of their story or whatever. But it's growing. I mean, I'm starting to speak a lot more, and that's a blessing in its own.
Absolutely. Well, it's also
Mm.
not only that, but I suppose also being able to impact other people's lives through your story and also, you know, helping other people. Because I think when you talk about something, you know,
Mm.
maybe other people, it might not be a similar situation, but, you know, it might touch somebody to talk about their own journey or to help them heal through process or, you know, situation that's occurred in their lives. So it's a good thing. So what would you say as a female entrepreneur, um, and some of the challenges that you have experienced, and what are some of the lessons and learnings um, that you could share with us?
Okay. The one thing that is a huge pet peeve for me is as a female entrepreneur, you seem to have to feel like, how do I say, you have to, your looks almost work against you. So if I feel like you have to really, really understand that it's cutthroat. You know, you will come across, especially men, that feel like they can hold you ransom for the way you look and
Absolutely.
use that, you know, use that to almost leverage. So that has been a very frustrating part of it for me, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Um, I've also learned that women don't necessarily support one another.
Sure. That is
It's
something. That is something that I was going to leave with a question, but seeing as you touched on it now, do you feel, because I've experienced similar things, because I think women are almost proprietorial in terms of, in terms of their what they do, their connections, etc. So, would you say that you have noticed a change in
Mm.
women supporting one another more than what they did 5 years ago, or do you still feel like we there's been progress, but maybe not as much progress as there should be in terms of women supporting one another?
There's no progress in my opinion. I'll give you a few examples, right? So I approached a friend of mine that owns a PR company, and I
Yeah.
said to her, I'd love to be your client and, speak and. She said to me, I can't have you as a client because I'm also a speaker.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that would mean that I'm having to promote you and I can't promote myself. But my thing is like, there's no such thing as bad competition. And
Yeah.
our topics are not the same. I mean, we do not talk on the same thing. She speaks more on business. I speak more on reality about
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So that was the one incident. I also found that when you are in a position where okay, so let me just quickly go back. Sorry. So in 2017, I took a huge knock. I was consulting in Zambia, doing really well. And then the reality of my journey hit me. I started to really, really feel the loss of my son because I had run away from the emotion. So I went, through a bit of a depressive period. I couldn't function. I couldn't work. I couldn't function. And when I was about to now get back, I mean, I didn't work for about 8 months because now I went into full mourning. I went into full feeling of everything.
Yeah.
My mom had to support me. It was really a bad period. And, now when I decided to go back into work, I realized that if I did work, if I consulted for men, for instance, I would get paid what I'm worth.
Yeah.
It's literally that I would get paid what I'm worth and I would not be abused in the process.
Yeah.
But when I consulted for women, I would find that instead of them promoting who I am, they would try and break who I am.
Yeah.
And there was a lot more.
Why do you think that is? I mean, do you think that? I mean, what is your opinion or your view on that? In terms of why why women why women are like that?
Firstly, I feel that having a strong personality comes at a cost,
Yes.
but at the same time, I look at it as, okay, I understand that right now, I am not where I need to be. I have taken a step back, let's call it that.
Yeah.
But it does not mean that you have to throw it in my face.
Yeah, for sure.
So, in that sense, that, I think people take for granted that life can change within a moment, it's an instance.
Yeah, for sure. For
People
sure.
also don't realize is, for me, if I could change anything about the past year, and we're talking financially,
Mhm.
Karen, it was probably not the past year, yeah, the year before, it was probably the worst period of my life.
Yeah.
In terms of my finances, you have to understand. I mean, from the age of 21, I was managing a shopping center, so
Yes.
I've always been on the higher income bracket.
Yes.
Um, from 28 working for myself, besides the coffee shop, I had a medical supplies company. We opened the first hospital with Netcare in Belankulas.
Mm.
So it was a really, really successful business. In Zambia, we sat with ministers and mayors.
Yeah.
So we've really, really we've had a lot of work.
Mm.
I had a lot of work and had a lot of experience. And then now I'm down.
Yeah.
So people found that as an opportunity. Listen, I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm just saying that they misunderstood that it's not that I have not succeeded, but I simply fell in the process.
Mm.
And
Yeah, for
if
sure.
I could change anything, I wouldn't, because that period taught me how flexible I am as a person. If I could
Absolutely.
go from earning X amount to earning less and still survive and learn, I learned what needs and wants are.
Yeah.
I also learned that you don't really need to have a big bank balance to be happy. We create it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the small things. If, I remember my car broke down and I was so frustrated. So what I decided was to sit in the garden and plant with my kids. We started gardening that day.
Mm.
And a friend of mine called me the next day and they were like, "Oh, Eileen, how are you feeling? Are you okay? Your car broke down." And I was like, "I'm great." And they were like, "Are you okay? Are you mad? What do you mean you're great? Your car broke down." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Well, if my car didn't break down, I wouldn't have slowed down. I
Yes.
wouldn't have had the opportunity to sit and garden, and experience what I was experiencing."
Well, it's also
So,
about perspective, right? I mean, these are the
yeah,
things. I mean, it's the same. I mean, I've been on an entrepreneurial journey myself, and you realize what you actually can do without, and that you don't have to be fancy, and you just have to get back down to basics. And sometimes those are the lessons, right?
yeah,
Hmm.
it's important. I think we focus too much on what we don't have, but we take for granted what we do have.
Absolutely.
And
So,
that's where I am in my journey is I embrace what I have. It might not be what I necessarily want right now, but for now it's enough.
yes,
If we understand that it doesn't mean because the cup is half empty that it's completely empty.
yeah,
Half full, sorry, that it's completely empty.
for
It's still
sure,
halfway there.
for sure.
So,
So how would you define leadership, and what do you think and believe this means as an entrepreneur and a coach?
for me personally, leadership boils down to one really important thing: humility.
Yeah,
I don't believe that a leader can be arrogant or rude. We have to
yeah.
humble ourselves. You know,
And it's also
um,
about accountability, right? I mean, as a leader, you have to be accountable for the good and the
you have
bad.
to you have to be accountable, exactly. But for me, in order to lead, you have to treat everyone around you with respect.
For sure.
So it doesn't matter what position that person has in their lives.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you have to respect them and treat them, as human beings. And
Yes.
secondly, whatever happens within your industry or your business, staff comes first. So for me, that
Absolutely.
is leadership, putting the people behind you in front of you.
For sure. For sure.
Because we can't lead from the front, we have to lead from the back.
Exactly.
Because you have to
Exactly.
push them forward.
For sure. So, I see you have a strong passion for philanthropy, and making a difference. Can you please tell us a little more about that? And how important do you feel as an entrepreneur, um, it is to have, something to give back to? So,
Sure. I think since I was really young, my parents got us into the culture of giving. We would go to Heelbrow and give out clothes.
yes,
And then I think it's become part of who I am.
yes,
Just this morning, actually, I spent my morning at a nursery school in Diepsloot. Momentum donated a garden to them, which was amazing.
wow,
And it's one of the nursery schools I've been supporting for well over a year. So, I mean, that's how we actually met was through
yes,
through that. I've always been involved in CSI projects and giving. The reason is we take for granted how much we have. And for me, there's nothing more rewarding than understanding that you're making a change in someone's life, no matter how big or small. So if every person, entrepreneur or not, got into the habit of giving even kindness every day, we would realize that the world will be so much better. Um,
absolutely,
I, I feel that a lot of people overlook the importance of giving.
yes,
Um, they also overlook the importance of lending a hand and just pulling someone forward.
yes,
There's so many people that miss out on opportunities just because someone else is not willing to give it to them.
for
So
sure,
I would definitely think that growth in a whole, in terms of business and life, lays in the hand of everyone reaching out and giving. So it is very, very important.
for sure. And also giving without the expectation of expecting anything in return, because I think that there are those that do things because they want to be seen to be doing something and
Mm.
are kind of looking, for the kudos or acknowledgement. But really, the true sense of giving is giving without, expecting anything in return.
Well, I think that all turns, it boils down to, Karen, how our mind is, what's it called? Okay,
Wired.
wired. So
Program.
basically, when we give, we receive dopamine. I mean, that's a reward, right? That's
Yes.
why some people get into the habit of even showing that they're giving because they want to see themselves giving over and over again.
Yes.
But in reality, you cannot buy gratitude.
No.
So the way you give ultimately will be weighed, on how the person receives it. I
For
mean, can you
sure.
imagine how it feels when you're giving someone in the street and you're taking a photo of them? They're gonna. Do you think they're gonna appreciate it? They won't.
No, they
The
won't.
left hand should not know what the right hand is doing.
No. Of course. Of course.
So if you're going to give for the wrong reasons, then it won't be received the way it should be received. But
Exactly.
giving, and it's important, and we all get, everyone has stages. So
Yes.
some people might start expecting, but in the end, they might get into a habit of giving without expecting. So, good behavior is taught, it's learned.
Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
think,
So the final question, just to finish off. So what would you say the three key pieces of advice to any entrepreneur would you share that you would feel to be invaluable?
sure. Giving up is not an option.
Mm.
Um, I think that even if you fail 10 times, try 10 times more, but change the method.
Yes,
Failure has become feedback.
for sure.
If it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough.
Yeah,
I am sitting on something right now that I want to want to do, and I'm terrified.
yeah,
I am terrified, and that's how I know that this is really where I need to be because I'm terrified. Every
yes,
time I go on a stage, I shake for like a good 10 seconds
yes,
because I know that it scares me so much because I want it so badly. Being afraid of it doesn't mean it's bad for you. It just means that you value what you're doing too much.
for sure.
If you don't understand why you're doing it, you'll never ever be able to know how to execute it properly. So I think that another thing is we have to learn to understand why we do things. We don't just, being an authentic person is so important as an entrepreneur. It
Yes,
doesn't mean because I am doing something, you can do it as well. The reason I'm saying that is because you don't know why I'm doing it.
of course.
So looking at someone else's model and saying, okay, I'm going to take it and make it my own doesn't mean that you're going to execute it as well as I'm doing it because my why is different to yours.
Of course.
I would say that as an entrepreneur, we have to be authentic, understand why we do things, and respect boundaries.
Yes,
Don't, you
always.
know, taking someone else's baby, an idea is a baby. Taking
Yeah,
someone else's baby and making it your own is very disrespectful.
yeah,
So fine if you not there's nothing wrong. People franchise, okay? People open up different branches. There's nothing wrong, with branching away. But if it's a new and fresh idea as an entrepreneur, I would say respect the other person and not don't overstep that boundary. Create your why. Discover your why and you'll be the most successful entrepreneur out there. That is the best advice. And budget.
yes.
Budget. if
Absolutely.
you if you
That's
don't
it.
budget, no.
And don't buy things that you don't need, or
That you don't need.
and for me it's always been about just reinvesting back into my clients and reinvesting back into the business and
And that's
cutting out unnecessary expenses.
unnecessary expenses are really the killer of joy, let's say.
Sure.
But at the same time, when I think that a lot of people are intimidated by money, not all businesses need a huge income or capital to start.
Yes.
All it needs is determination and a change of perspective. If you can adjust your model to fit what you have, you can create what you want.
Yes.
So I think that is also quite important.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank
Thank
you
you.
for sharing your story and your journey. And yeah, we'll look forward to talking in the future.
Thank you so much. Have an amazing evening. Well, that's probably morning that side or afternoon.
Yeah,
Have an amazing
midday.
day further. Midday, well, it's evening here. Have an amazing day further and a lovely weekend.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me. And yeah, hopefully we'll speak soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Karen. Bye bye.